Because what happens when people get dizzy when they stand from low blood pressure is essentially gravity is winning the game here. And all the blood is pooling down in the feet because gravity is stronger than your vascular system and your heart. So when your blood pressure is too low, it'll give you dizziness when you're sitting up in bed, from lying down to sitting up on the edge of the bed, or from seated to standing. That's when people will get dizziness from low blood pressure. And that is most commonly a side effect of medications. Okay, so the first thing you want to look at is what meds am I on? Is it caused by my meds? Can my dosage be adjusted? And talk to the doctor about that. That's a physician supervised change that may or may not need to be made. The second most common reason why people have dizziness from low blood pressure is because they're dehydrated. Okay? I mean, my mouth is dry right now, so I'm dehydrated too. It's very hard to stay hydrated. It just is for all of us. So some things people can do to stay hydrated is to avoid alcohol and caffeine, because those are dehydrators. Coffee, tea, and alcohol all are dehydrators. But if you like those things, go for it. Just make sure you also drink water to keep yourself hydrated. And then the final thing I see with people who get dizzy when they stand up is a lot of times they have a bladder problem. And if their bladder is leaking in general, then they will purposefully not drink water to avoid embarrassing accidents. Okay? This is so true. Men and women alike will do this so they can go out and they don't pee their pants basically in public, okay? Or in front of their friends. Or at night, they don't have to make so many trips to the bathroom, so they'll say, well, I'm not going to drink any water all afternoon so I can sleep through the night, okay? As far as I'm concerned, that needs to be addressed in order to relieve their dizziness. So what I've done in my methodology, the Bell method that I've created, is I have a specific bladder retraining program that works for men and women for age-related bladder leaking. And I meet a lot of women that have it throughout their life after they've had a vaginal delivery. They've just had bladder problems throughout their life. They've never told anybody. They've just sucked it up. And once they start doing this program, their bladder strength increases. They're no longer leaking. Then they can drink more water, and they're not as dizzy. Okay? So I know you all are having another topic later in this weekend about the pelvic floor. So that would be a perfect connection with what we're talking about now, how to train the pelvic floor for someone who's purposefully dehydrating themselves to avoid embarrassing accidents and then getting dizzy when they stand up. Okay, so that's great. In terms of what to do about it, why don't we all do this now just to take a break from sitting? So what you're going to do and what you're going to tell your students to do if they're dizzy when they stand up, and I know some of you are shaking your head like, yeah, this is me, this is about to happen. Let's all stand up, okay? And this is what I teach people with dizziness when they stand. Number one, spread your feet a little wider to stabilize yourself so you don't feel wobbly. And then alternating, lift your heels up, okay? Because what happens when people get dizzy when they stand from low blood pressure is essentially gravity is winning the game here. And all the blood is pooling down in the feet because gravity is stronger than your vascular system and your heart. And so they need to essentially lift their heels to pump the calf muscle to get that blood pumped back up to the brain, okay? So if you want to do it like this is a little easier. If you want to make it harder, bring the feet closer together. Alternate, kind of like you're prancing. Okay, now bring your feet all the way together with your big toes touching. Big toes touching, and just lift your heels. You see how now you can make it a little harder for your more advanced students. Okay? Okay, and now let's try spread the feet again, shoulder width. Do 2 at a time. Ooh, that's even harder. This is the hardest way, okay? If you want to get super fancy with it, you could have them hold a chair and do a single limb calf raise. So try single limb calf raises for those of you with good balance. Yeah, not as easy, huh? Okay, so that's just an example of how you can teach your students how to manage dizziness with standing as part of your exercise class. Because what happens, what I find is people that get dizzy with standing, I measure their blood pressure once a minute for as many minutes as it takes for their blood pressure to return to normal. And if someone say it takes them 5 minutes after they stand for their blood pressure to return to normal and they're dizzy for 5 minutes, if they pump their ankles, it reduces that time. So maybe now they're only dizzy for 90 seconds when they stand because they're giving themselves what I would call a mechanical support. Because what happens is when you pump your calves, it compresses the veins and it pushes the blood back up. And then the veins have one-way valves in them to prevent them from backflowing. So it's a really good progressive thing that the more you pump, the better it's going to feel. And it will reduce the time of dizziness when they stand. And then you can tell them, do that even when you're at home.